check if I'm live. It looks like the button's just come up to say that I am. I'm just going to wait to see if it comes up on my phone. It's definitely easier the second day around. Okay, I'm just going to assume that I am, and hopefully people will join. If you have questions, always, let's make it as interactive as possible. And thanks for all the comments and questions that have been coming in on the Facebook group, in my email, on Instagram. It's really great to have participation and to hear your experience of the challenge so far. So today has been, I consider this a fairly big day. We're in the middle of the challenge, but also it's a question that we were looking at: who are our guides or our role models? Who are people that we would turn to for guidance? So the reason why I think this is a big question is because personally, I found that a fairly difficult thing to answer, and to really think about who are the people that I look to for guidance, and who would I ask for help. That's been a fairly challenging question. So it would be great to know your experience of that. How easy was it to answer that? Were there people like you turn to regularly, or is it not a question you've really asked yourself? And then the other part of that was the reflection, thinking, okay, so what are the elements in these people that I admire? And then seeing, how do I live by those? How is that part of the person who I am today? How do I prioritize those behaviors into the person who I want to become? And how does that fit into my vision of what success looks like, of what a successful person looks like? What are the qualities that I admire? So that was the workbook today. But for the deep dive, I have a few other elements to look at. So that's also why I think of this as quite a big topic, because having role models and people that you can look to for guidance, and as examples of people that you really respect, and you respect the way that they live their lives, this is of huge value for lots of different reasons. So I wanted to break it down into a few different ways that you can now think about these role models so that they can help you in different parts of your life. So the first one is really, it's by making your vision tangible and real. If there are people who are living the kind of life that you want to live, you can get into a really nuanced, granular view of what it is that they've done to achieve their success, and also what do their overall lives look like today? What are the challenges that they might still face? What does their schedule look like? What are the parts of the way that they live their lives that you respect and admire? Because making it really specific and tangible and real will help you find ways to bring that into your life that you're living today. You can also see what you think is the same and what you think would be different, because even if you respect someone, there may still be things that you want to do differently. And that's also hugely helpful to say, how would you shape your definition of success and your vision of success? Then there is the question of, okay, so if they've already achieved this, they've maybe worked a long time to get there, there's also the part of learning from them. And even if you're doing this in an imaginary way, there is the question of asking for help. And that's another topic that I thought would be really interesting to see if anything came up for you, because I know when I'm coaching clients, asking for help can sometimes be a barrier. It doesn't come naturally. Often we're in roles where we are giving a lot of help and giving a lot of guidance, but what does it feel like to actually ask for help? So even going through that imaginary process of thinking, who are the people that I would turn to for advice and help? What would I ask them? Even framing the question can be super powerful to start visualizing what help you would get. And that then takes me to the next suggestion. And this is a little bit like pushing the boundaries of what's out the box. But even if you don't have access to asking that person directly, because another example I gave was you could even think about characters in books or movies if there's not someone specifically in the real world that you would turn to for advice. If they're not available to ask for advice, a really, really powerful question is thinking, what would this person do in this scenario? So you've identified who it is you turn to for guidance and help, what you admire about them. You've identified the question or the problem that you're facing. And then you can ask, what would they do? If they were me, what would they do in this situation? And I actually use that question a lot, not even just for people who I admire, But I use that to challenge my beliefs and my own identity often. So something that might be slightly, I don't know if it's controversial or not, but I like to ask myself this question. I often change my gender. And I think, what would I do if I was a man? And the reason I ask that is because I think there's a lot of beliefs that are programmed into us around what the world looks like for us in certain roles. And just by asking a question like, what would I do if I was a man? Or what would I do if I lived in a different country? If I shifted my identity, and it's the same you could do it once you've identified the person that you respect and admire, what would I do if I was that person? It opens up your mind to let you, like, liberate you from some of the beliefs that you might hold around who you are as a person. And this then feeds into that vision of success, because if you're trying to reach a different type of place in your life, then you might need to reshape what you're doing, your behaviors, your beliefs, your attitudes, the actions you take. So these kind of questions really open up possibilities to you in a pretty fast way, just thinking about what would I do if I was that person. And another story I just wanted to draw into this is that there's another, like a big inspiration for this challenge was when I first wrote about my vision of success and how there was the very first blog that I posted on my website showing my process of how I redefined my vision of success. And I was looking for images for that blog. And I went into a free image finder, Unsplash, and I just put in the word success. And every image that came up they were white men, which shouldn't be a surprise, but I kind of just thought there would be more, like a little bit more variety. And then generally there were white men standing on top of mountains or in boardrooms. And those were the visions of success. Those were the actual visual images of what success looks like. And then I typed in successful woman or successful woman. And the images that came back were handbags and makeup and perfume bottles. So it's not just powerful for us to be asking ourselves these questions. It's also that we've been given a lot of imagery from multiple places that have shown us what success looks like. And it's really powerful to redefine that and to choose images. What images do we want to put out there? What does success look like to us? So we can still reshape the images that are available to us. And success can start to look differently. It doesn't just have to be climbing a mountain or sitting at a boardroom, and it doesn't have to just be, a specific type of person. I did write to Unsplash when I got really frustrated. I thought, well, what can I do about this? So I wrote to them, and the images for women have changed. So that's great. So if you type successful woman, you get different images. But if you type success, it's still men on top of mountains. I checked yesterday. So I think as part of this challenge, like another addition that you can make today is if you have, share with us in the group, what images are you putting on your vision boards for who is successful, who looks like a successful person to you, and who would you turn to for guidance and advice to help you get there along the way. So yeah, go ahead and share your images in the group. The vision boards that you did yesterday also help us define what do these images look like. But let's keep doing that and putting them out there. And then the final part of this is that I wanted to talk about how are we modeling success in our own lives. So we can start to see, is there a gap between where we are now and who we've defined to be people that we turn to and we admire and we respect? Obviously, a part of that admiration of people is seeing qualities that they represent. And then generally, if you respect a quality in somebody else, you already have those traits in yourself. So it's seeing the value that you already have, and then looking for ways that you can model that for others to see. How do you become a role model and an example for others? So just taking that time to think about the qualities that you admire and respect, checking in with yourself. How are you living that today? How is it already in you? And then how do you want to show up? How do you want to be an example of somebody who probably someone who's also willing to ask for help so that you can carry on along that path, but someone that somebody else could turn to, and what guidance could you share around what a new definition and a new vision of success looks like. So thank you for the comments. Thank you, Sam, for following along. And yep, shifting your identity is just a really super powerful practice. And it's a really valuable part of creating these vision boards, is just starting to challenge what we've been taught and starting to take ownership of what we want things to look like. And part of that is your identity too. So I'm just going to see if I've made any other notes. Yeah, I guess the final thing was just another story to share around my own experience when I was making the transition from leaving my corporate job to starting my own practice as a coach. A really big part of that was thinking about, what do I want to actually visually look like? And I dressed up a little bit more tonight because wearing hoop earrings was something that stood out to me. I've loved hoop earrings since I was a child, before I even had my ears pierced. And when I was in my corporate job, I definitely was a lot more conservative. I used to hold back a lot and almost want to not be seen as much. And so I knew that when I wanted to step up and start my own business, I also wanted to think about, what do I display visually on a regular basis? So it's not just looking at qualities. It can also be looking at, how do you live that? How do you emulate it? What does this person look like holistically? And the more you can see it and make it specific, it can be the smallest thing, like earrings, like, jewelry, or like I mentioned, the cup of tea yesterday. What are the micro small things that you can bring in to this vision? So I love the comments. Thank you, Portia. And Yasmin is saying, from time to time I ask myself, what is my trademark? How do I want to be known? And also that keeps me focused on my strengths. Exactly. And that, I love that you used the word trademark, because there was an option. If you didn't want to create a vision board, you could create little icons. What are the little elements that represent the people that you admire? So trademarks, icons, try and make things as specific and real as possible. So thank you for following along, everybody. I really appreciate you being in the group, and for your comments, for joining me tonight. I'll be around in the group for the next 15 minutes at least, but I'll be popping in and out. So if you have any other questions, let me know. And I would love for you to share who your icons are, who your guides are. Let me know what's come up for you today, what you've learned, any reflections, and we'll keep the conversation going. But really appreciate you being here, and I'll chat to you again for our final day, last day of the challenge tomorrow. Bye.